Hello again, good to see you after a week away covering basketball for West Virginia University, believe it or not. I know it sounds weird, but I am back inside the Tier 4 studio in Morgantown, West Virginia for the Charleston Daily Mail. I am Mike Casaza, and you have seated in front of the computer screen right now for the Wednesday walkthrough, our weekly look ahead at WVU's upcoming game. Saturday, 3:30 p.m., Carter Stadium, Fort Worth, Texas, ESPNU. You have West Virginia and TCU. Put these two teams next to each other, they'd look similar. Same records in the conference, same records overall, same grim postseason prospects. Kind of makes sense. It's almost appropriate in some ways because they entered the Big 12 holding hands, and they've kind of fallen and gotten up and fallen again in a similar fashion at the same times, too. Think about this. I think we can agree West Virginia was on the ascent in large regard after winning the Orange Bowl 70-33, high-stepping into the Big 12. Didn't work out very well. Not working out well again this year. Attrition, depth, travel, familiarity, all struggles for West Virginia. TCU, that was always the mid-major darling, I guess, if a football phrase can be used like that. But a team that was looking for respect, looking for opponents, looking for equal footing, and they finally made that splash when they were invited to the Big East, and then the Big 12. Remember, that actually happened. But it hasn't really worked. They were built to maybe acquiesce quicker than West Virginia, but they've had problems. Suspensions, health, and also health. Really been dinged up. Not to say West Virginia has not been either, though. When you look at what happened last week, 13 players did not dress for the game for West Virginia. On a regular road game, they'll bring about 58, 63 players, something like that. So take away 13, that's a big percentage of players, and guys who would have played too. Now, some of those players you already know were out for the season, preseason, middle of the season, but other guys were guys who would have played. Darrell Worley, Dontrell Hyman, Wes Tonkery, Ricky Runk, people like that. Will they play this week? Who knows? Day-to-day, according to Dana Holgorsen, no one's going to tell us. So you watch the game and try to figure out on your own to see who's active and who's getting healthier, maybe who can help toward the end. But in the past couple of weeks, probably one of the biggest problems for West Virginia's defense is a continuity in personnel. For a while, they were really humming. You saw guys like Worley, like Marvin Gross, like Hyman, like Kyle Rose, Eric Kinsey, people like that, really starting to climb and seeing performance improve as playing time and their roles increased. When you throw in some injuries and you have to move a guy like Eric Kinsey or Kyle Rose around to cover up some things slow down a little bit and you don't advance quite as quickly or as noticeably as you want. Maybe that has to do with the results in the field, not an excuse. One of these teams, though, whether they are healthy, whether they're lucky, whatever, takes a step toward going to a bowl game. They both walk in 3-5. They both walk in 1-4 in the conference. One of them is walking out on the razor's edge between home at Christmas and just fighting for 6-6 overall. The numbers say it will be TCU, 14-point favorites, and I want you to chew on this, though. TCU struggles at offense. They've had quarterback issues. They haven't really found the proper mix of running and passing. They've, like I said, been beat up. They've had some injuries that have been hard to deal with, but they don't score a lot. They scored 27 points against Kansas. Exploded for 27 points against Kansas. That was the fewest Kansas had allowed in 8 Big 12 games, which is just about a year now. That was their high water mark for TCU. They get about 14 points a game, yet that is the point spread for them to beat West Virginia, which says a lot about West Virginia's offense as it limps in here. But also, TCU, first, they haven't played back-to-back home games like they will after playing Texas last week and West Virginia this week since 2011. A long time. That says a lot about how Gary Patterson, as the head coach, has framed his non-conference schedule. And speaking of Patterson, doesn't lose a lot of back-to-back games. He's never lost 3 in a row, which is at stake this weekend. He's been there 13 seasons. They've always bounced back. Really good record after a loss. 27-9, I believe. And if it's not that, it's not far off. Impressive figure, and he finally seems to get himself out of a tailspin and get things back on the right track, usually after a defeat. Dana Holgorsen, though, has had a 5-game losing streak last year, 3-game losing streak this year, and you start to see signs that this is going this way and not this way. It's not even going this way right now. Can you pull it together? It's hard on the road. It's hard on the road. West Virginia has not fared well on the road. If you think about where last season's fortunes changed for the Mountaineers, Texas one week, Texas Tech the next, and then you got Kansas State after that. So it was 3 tough games in a row. Kansas State was at home, but they went to Kansas State last week. They go to TCU this week. It's not as far as going to Austin and Lubbock back-to-back, but later in the season, when you're getting a little bit thinner and when the prospects for what may lie ahead for you, which is no bowl, a losing season, a long off season, that can make it harder to get back up late in the season. And people may fatigue a little quicker, people may soften their stance a little quicker. It's hard to continue when things aren't going well, and going back and forth to road games, battling the other team, plus all the people in the stands, difficult proposition this time of the season. Watch for TCU's offense, though. I think West Virginia believes that Casey Paha will play most of the game, if not all the game. He took over against Texas, didn't play great. That was a really weird game, though, with the delays. Kind of hard to draw resolute conclusions from that, but the players, the coaches seem to think it'll be Paha, and maybe that's better for TCU's offense. Running game is interesting. DJ Catalon, Wayman James, they both average about 5 yards a carry. The passing game has some dangerous players. Ladarius Brown and Brandon Carter, probably their main receivers, but watch out. They have a couple of players, David Porter and Josh Dutson, a little bit more explosive. Porter only has 9 catches, about 225 yards receiving, so he does a lot when he gets it. TCU has explosive players on offense, not really what you're used to seeing when it comes to Gary Patterson. Their defense don't have Devontae Field this year. He's going to be redshirting, only played a couple of games, but leads the Big 12 in sacks and interceptions. They're still doing it up front. Terrell Lathan, a really good player, has 4 sacks. 7 TCU players have at least 2 sacks. West Virginia only has 10 sacks. 7 TCU players have at least 2. Think about that for a second. Defensive backs, you know Jason Verrett, and you know Elisha Olabode. Good cornerback, probably the best in the country in Verrett. A really good underrated safety in Olabode. Veteran players don't really make a lot of mistakes, and every one of those defensive backs in the 4-2-5, by the way, plays the ball in the air. They're aggressive. They play man-to-man. They go at the highest point. A lot of pass breakups, a lot of deflections. Keep your eye on Sam Carter, though. He's that hybrid player in the 2-5 that they play, where he can come down and play linebacker, he can drop back and play safety. Good tackler, good defensive back. He's smart. He's seen that for a couple years now. And last year, he shut down Tavon Austin for most of the game. When Tavon got loose and started going really well, Carter had been poked in the eye, and he was in the sideline, and West Virginia took advantage. No Tavon this year. Carter is still there. He's going to have an impact on the game on defense. Just some players to watch out for. West Virginia, offensive line has to play better. The inside was probably really good last week. The guards played well. Tyler Orlowski played pretty well after losing Pat Egger early in the game. The tackles, Nick Kindler, Curtis Fight, didn't play a whole lot better. What's important in this game, though, is to have guys like Dreamus Smith and Charles Sims break that 6-yard run into a 25-yard run. Break that 20-yard run into a 45-yard run. Finish things, make a guy miss. There are going to be defensive backs who, because they play man-to-man, are going to be somewhat out of position. And if you can break that first and second line, if you get good blocks, if your receivers help you out, you have a chance one-on-one with guys and to make those great plays instead of having to stack very, very good plays on top of one another to make an impact. Clint Trickett sounds like he'll be the starter here. I think that maybe we had some questions, whether it be Millard or Trickett, based on the performance Saturday and some comments afterwards. Sure sounds like it's going to be Trickett, and they're going to have to take some shots against this Texas defense. this TCU defense. Texas, for example, really challenged the players on the outside of TCU's defense and won a couple of them. Oklahoma State kind of played it underneath, kept the top on it, and just moved the ball down the field. West Virginia, probably a mix of it, but obviously they're better off maybe taking some shots and just seeing if they can do something with Kevin White or Ronald Carswell pressing down the field. If they can do that, those underneath plays become a little bit more effective. And finally, the part where I talk about special teams. TCU is really good at it. They're well coached. They are dynamic on returns. Catalon, very good on kickoff returns. Carter and one other guy, Cameron Luper-Eckel, both good on punt returns. They make good plays. They're going to test West Virginia's coverage, which has been pretty good. But they also stop dynamic plays. West Virginia has not been very good on punt return and kickoff return. TCU makes it difficult. They also have a great punter and a great kicker. They get points, and they use the field position with their punter and their kicker to really let their defense do some things. A great defense, well coached, an average offense, though. And if West Virginia's defense is struggling like it has been, maybe that gets them going. They played good for 2 quarters, 2.5 quarters. Perhaps an average offense makes a below-average defense the past couple weeks start to rise to where it was early in the season. One way to find out, check it out on television Saturday. Follow us on the blog, live post Saturday, text from game day Monday. I will see you there.